What is good, YouTube? It is your boy, R Press, and this is the H-Town Shutdown. Thanks for joining me today as we speak about Houston pro sports, and you can go on and mark it down. October 1st, 2023 was a historic winning day for the city of Houston and their professional sports teams, the Houston Astros and the Houston Texans. 2 dubs today, important dubs, and we're going to break down both of them on this episode. So how about we get it started talking about the Houston Astros, who go on to win the American League West and make it to the playoffs, get that first round bye, second seed in the American League, a spot that, if we're going to be honest, even going into this weekend, didn't seem like it would happen. But the Texas Rangers did not hold on, losing 3 or 4 to the Seattle Mariners. Seattle had a chance as well, but they lost. They lost 2 of 3 to Houston this week, and they lost 1 game to the Rangers, which eliminated them from playoff contention. But they did what they had to do and gone and beat the Rangers today, which put the Rangers at 90-72. The Astros, on the other hand, as I mentioned, won 2 of 3 this week in Seattle, and then go on to sweep the Arizona Diamondbacks this weekend to finish the season 90-72, same record as the Texas Rangers. Astros won the head-to-head series 9-4. They get the tiebreaker. They're the number 2 seed in the American League. What a wow. I honestly did not see this coming, winning the division this week. I had hoped that we would, and then we were in control for about 2 to 3 weeks towards the end of the year. And after we got swept by the Kansas City Royals, it looked bleak. It really did. But this team showed exactly what we have been hoping they show and looking for them to show, which was that championship medal and that championship mindset that they have. They showed it this past week, showing up in Seattle, winning 2 of 3. The Mariners absolutely owned the Astros most of this year, and the Astros did what they had to do by beating them 2 of 3 on the road and then going and handling their business with Arizona, a team that had a lot to play for in the first 2 games. They hadn't clinched a playoff spot. So they put out their 2 best pitchers the first 2 games, and the Astros won both of those games, and then they won this game. Of course, Arizona clinched it last night due to a loss. I believe Cincinnati had lost, which gave them that playoff spot in the National League. So they didn't really play all their guys or go hard. They're gearing up to play Tuesday in the wild card. The Astros had everything to play for. After they won Saturday's game, they had clinched a playoff spot. So after the playoff spot was clinched, Seattle was eliminated. It was all about, okay, we have a chance to win the division. And they needed some help, and the help came in the form of Seattle, ironically, winning today 1-0 against the Texas Rangers. Can't write a better script than that. Texas has been a team that has been in control of the division most of the year. Then they lost it, and they were in 3rd place. They were behind both Houston and Seattle. Both teams caught them, and then both teams went on a skid, and Texas was on a skid with them. But they turned it around, won some games late, sweeping Toronto, which helped them in the end because Texas got the 5 seed, and they didn't get the 6 seed. So they avoid Houston if they get past that first round. I think the first round matchup is harder, and we'll break that down a little bit. But as far as the Astros, man, this has been probably the most frustrating, trying, up and down season of recent memories, especially since they've been on this run since 2017. This has been the most trying year. Started out with injuries, the bullpen blowing games, the starting pitching with injuries, and then the starting pitching started to decline with Valdez and Javier struggling most of June and July, and the bullpen struggling in May and June into July. The offense going hot and cold for a lot of the time, a lot of the dog days of summer. I can think of a few games in June, July, August where the bats just disappeared in May and just let them down. And to go through all of that The emergence of Yainer Diaz and him not playing every single day, Martin Maldonado getting most of the playing time at catcher, and him not being the offensive threat and really the defensive threat that Yainer Diaz has become. But you got to give Maldonado some credit because these last two series, the man showed up and stepped up and made some plays offensively and defensively he hadn't been making all year. So that's what I mean by this team has it. And it feels good going into the playoffs. It feels good winning that division because it didn't look like we were going to, especially last week. I mean, we had control of it and lost it by losing to Oakland and Kansas City. When that happened, it looked bleak that the Astros would make the playoffs, let alone win the division. So for it to happen on the last day, the way that it happened was absolutely spectacular, satisfying. It helps set the rotation now because they're off this first round. They don't play until Saturday. It's at home. And we haven't been great at home. Hopefully we can change that trend. I'll break it down once we find out who we're playing. It'll be either between the Minnesota Twins or the Toronto Blue Jays, two teams that the Astros lost the regular season series to, both of them. But both series were early. I think the Twin series was done by Memorial Day, and Toronto series was done by early June. So they hadn't played in a while. That was all in the first half. Astros were pretty injured during that time. But, and Toronto's made some trades. They're probably not even the same team. But we'll see what happens when that time comes. But celebrating this season, celebrating winning the division, creeping up behind them and taking it from the Texas Rangers like they did, pretty much eliminating Seattle like they did. What a satisfying week this became for the Astros, man. Those three teams, listen, we got to give it credit because we hadn't seen a race like this in baseball. I haven't ever, where three teams were in it for the division, the wild card, or to be out of the playoffs. And it became that way for the last month and a half of the season. It was a dogfight, ladies and gentlemen. I have respect for the way that it went down. I respect the Seattle Mariners and the Texas Rangers, but the Astros weren't ready to give up the division, and they weren't ready to say, "Hey, this isn't our year." Now they go into the playoffs, the 2 seed, rest, home field, which like I mentioned, they finished below 500 at home, so we'll see if that matters in the playoffs. But for them to do what they did, the way that they did, was absolutely satisfying and outstanding, and it shows just how gritty this team is and how resilient they are and how much they wanted it. Division champs for the third straight year, 6 out of the last 7, and the only time they didn't win a division was that weird 2020 year during COVID. So a lot of people just skip over that anyways. It was a 60-game season. But yeah, Houston Astros are back, man. Feels good. Feels good that, because a lot of times this season, it felt like this just isn't our year. And I'm not saying that we are, we won anything yet. We still got to go and earn it in the playoffs, get 11 wins first. Be the first team to 11. Is it 11? Yeah, it is 11. Be the first team to 11 and see if they can, at least they have a chance to defend their championship and try to repeat. Such a satisfying way to do it, and the way that they did it, and the way that what the season represents. This might be the most trying run that they've gone on, the most trying regular season for sure. Winning the division took the last day, and they did it, and it feels good. And they got that 2 seed, and now they're sitting pretty good, hoping to get back to the World Series, back to the ALCS. They're already in the ALDS. Let's see how they've done great in that round. So we'll see if that continues. But this season has been unpredictable for the Astros. So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited. Congratulations again to the Houston Astros, American League West Division champs, showing what they were made of this past week. And hopefully we can carry that into the playoffs. And the city of Houston continues to support the Astros Man, what a team, man. What a win. What a gratifying season ender that this was. And when most of the season was pretty frustrating. Congrats to the Astros. Let's go get it. We'll have a breakdown for the opponent, whoever. Once we figure that out, I think that'll be at the latest Thursday. And we'll see who will be, Minnesota or Toronto, and get the ALDS going on Saturday, game 1. Excited about that. Now, I'm also excited about the football team here in Houston because what they did today was something that I didn't expect them to do. A lot of people didn't expect them to do. A lot of fans didn't expect them to do. They were at home and they whooped the Pittsburgh Steelers 30-6. Man, this is after whooping Jacksonville 37-17, and now they're 2-2 on the year. Today's win represented something to me, and I think it represented a lot. I think I can speak for a lot of the fans. It represented a change. And the change is this team is competitive and this team is for real. What they were able to do, how they were able to do it, the way they were able to do it, to the team that they did it to, was absolutely astounding. 30-6, guys. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their defense has been very good this year. Their pass rush has been good forever. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith. And the Texans, coming off a game where they gave up no sacks to the Jacksonville Jaguars, did the same thing against the Pittsburgh Steelers. No sacks. If there's one bet that you probably would have made, if you're a betting man, you probably would have made the bet that, Steelers are going to get a sack. Watt's going to get a sack just because. And they didn't get any sacks. Caused a turnover. They were in the defense. They made Kenny Pickett's life miserable. And the play calling in Pittsburgh, I'm not a fan of Steelers. I'm just looking at the game as a fan of the Texans. And objectively, play calling was terrible. I can see why those fans was calling for the firing of Matt Canada as long as they have been. This team is just... this team is growing on us, man. Physical, flying to the football. Them safeties, Petrie was back. Jonathan Greenyard, Will Anderson, Jimmy Ward, Nelson got a pick. Guys, the linebacking crew. Man, who is this team, man? This is a physical, to the ball, aggressive team on defense and on offense. Hadn't even talked about our quarterback yet. Boy, is this guy, man. Boy, is this guy impressive. Has he thrown a pick yet? Did he throw one today? I don't think he did. The guy's been, I'm going to check that. The guy's just been outstanding. I don't remember him throwing a pick. And you just have to give him his props, because not only has he changed the mindset of the Texans, he's changed the way we've approached games. You can give it to this guy and be like, hey, man, no picks this year. No picks yet. Quarterback rating was 111.3 today. 306 yards, 2 touchdowns. Who is this guy? Because you know what? We hadn't seen something like this in a while. Deshaun gave us glimpses. But CJ Stroud, man, is the real deal. To do that to the Pittsburgh defense, the way that he did, and they got dogs all up and down that defense. No worries for him. He said something during the week that kind of caught my eye and caught my ear. He said, they got to play us too. No disrespect at all, because he gave the Steelers nothing but respect. He knew what type of defense that was and what type of team that is and what they represent. But he said, they got to play us too. Pretty much saying that in his mind, we're on the same playing field. We're going to go compete. We're not going to be afraid. We're going to go give it our best, and we're going to do what we do. And what we do is we turn the ball over. We turn the team over, and we don't turn the ball over. And we got a quarterback he's not game managing. Let's just be clear. He's not game managing. He's making throws and plays that decide games. And he's doing that as a rookie 4 games in. This is impressive, man. Listen, I'm a guy that likes to tailor my expectations, especially with the Texans. But I hadn't seen this. Even when Watson was a rookie and he was doing these things that these rookie quarterbacks weren't doing. We were losing the game. We were still losing. Then he ended up getting hurt. Stroud has won 2 games already, back to back, and he hasn't been the reason why we lost the other 2 games. There was other reasons, offensive line. Which you know what? Well, let me finish on Stroud, and I'm gonna get to them. So because of this attitude, this moxie, his game, his belief, the whole team seems to be following that suit. This is a different team, guys. This ain't the same old Texans. And I'm not saying that we're going to win the Super Bowl and things like that. I'm just saying from week to week, if you haven't seen the improvements and you haven't seen the strides that this team is taking, you ain't been watching. I saw last week, they got a punt return, and they got a punt block and they got a kickoff return. So those are 2 scores that, doesn't happen every day. Cool. I get it. But they happened, and the Texans did it. So if you want to dismiss that as, one-offers, cool. But today, there wasn't no one-offers. They moved the ball right down the field, and Pittsburgh couldn't move the ball. Couldn't put the ball in the end zone. 2 field goals is what they got. Man, this Texans defense is swarming. The offensive line. We got 2 guys that are hurt, that are our 2 best offensive linemen. Tunsil, Titus Howard. And the guys that are playing now, Shaq Mason, the guard, Fant, the backup tackle for Tunsil, these guys aren't missing a beat. And this is 2 games in a row that if you look at the film, they played elite. No sacks. And guess what? That non-existent run game from the first 2 games, from the Colts game and the Ravens game, suddenly appeared the past 2 games. And it all started in the trenches. And this offensive line is the reason why. Man, what a turnaround in just performance and belief. Belief that, guys, listen, we can do it. We can make this happen. We're going to make it happen. And we need to make it happen. And I think that comes from DeMeco Ryans, and it obviously comes from CJ Stroud. His mindset is different. DeMeco's got this team flying around. He's got the defense flying around. He's got this team believing. We got weapons. Nico Collins is turning into a really reliable weapon. Tank Dell, explosive plays. You saw Pierce was getting loose. Singletary did good. Dalton Schultz caught a few passes. And that's the one thing about Stroud. He's not just throwing to the tight end like most rookie quarterbacks do. He's going all up and down the field, man. Every blade, every inch of it. And to not have a turnover. That means we're going to be winning. We're going to win the turnover battle in these games if he continues to play the way that he's playing. Not just that, he's throwing for 300 yards. He's giving us touchdowns. It's hard not to get excited after a day like this where they stomp the Steelers. It's hard not to get excited about this team and what the possibilities are. Because if you look at the schedule, and let me pull it up. I saw it earlier, but let me give you game for game. It's hard not to get excited about the possibilities of these teams, the Houston Texans. Next Sunday, they're in Atlanta to play the Falcons. Falcons are 2-2. They just lost 2 games in a row. At home, the next Sunday, the 15th, against the Saints. Saints are 2-2. Derek Carr looked terrible today. They lost last week to Green Bay. They looked terrible today against Tampa Bay. Bye week the following week, and then at Carolina. Carolina's winless. They might have a win by then, maybe not. Probably not. Then November 5th, Tampa Bay. The Buccaneers come to Houston. That not a winnable game? I know Tampa's 3-1, but they have beaten up on teams that aren't great. And the one team that was, they got handed, I think it was 2 touchdown loss, Philadelphia. And then November 12th at Cincinnati. You see the Bengals lately? You see Joe Burrow, not himself. I don't know what's happened to that team. And you know what? That was the team I picked to go to the Super Bowl. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that's not going to happen this year. He doesn't look healthy. But, that's for another story. And that offense just looks completely overwhelmed. They got whooped 27-3. I don't know what's going on with the Bengals. But I'll say that to say, are these not winnable games? Are these not winnable games? Come on, man. Starting in Atlanta. I'm not saying that you should be favored, but that's not a winnable game. At home against the Saints isn't winnable. On the road against Carolina. The Bucks at home. On the road against Cincinnati. And then after that, the Cardinals at home before Thanksgiving. These are the games before Thanksgiving. This team could win all those games. Not saying they will. We know in the NFL injuries and, anybody could beat anybody. But are those not winnable games? They are. So that's why I think we should, be a little excited about the possibilities of the Houston Texans. What a great win this week, man. Look forward to next week. The Texans are rolling. The Astros back in the playoffs, man. Trying to get back to the World Series. October is the best month of the year. We got NFL. We got college football. We got the Major League Baseball playoffs, best playoffs around. And I think the NBA start. Yeah, the NBA did start up in the end of October. So best month around for sports, man. I'm looking forward to it. Excited about the two teams that are starring right now in the city, the Astros and the Texans. I appreciate you joining me on H-Town Shutdown. And until next time, I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.